Hello, my friends, and welcome to a brand new episode of Discourse in Magic, and as well, a YouTube video. Today, we are talking about every part of the behind the scenes of how we got on Penn and Teller's Fool Us.
Wow, every part?
Every part. We're going to talk about
our diet?
No, not our diet, but we're going to talk about how we came up with it. We're talking about the process of getting on behind the scenes, going to Vegas, what that was like, and what's going on right now, and sort of the publishing and promoting aspect of it too, because I think people are curious, and maybe we'll end with how they can apply on next season and any tips we have for them.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah.
So you prepared some questions.
I prepared some questions.
I don't know what they are.
No. So I have a head
hopefully
start.
I have answers.
Yeah, and we'll both sort of give some of these an answers. And to start, the first question is, how did we get on? People are wondering, they say, how did you get on the show? Did they reach out to us? Did we reach out to them? Did we submit? What was the process like? So why don't you talk a little bit about it, and then I'll talk about it too.
So my process was a little different than yours. They reached out to me a couple of years ago and asked me to apply, and I didn't because I didn't feel confident at the time. And then they reached out a second time, and I applied, and they said no. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't apply a third time.
Which, by the way, is really frustrating. That they reached out and said, are you available? And they said, just send in your video. And then you sent it in. And then they said,
I just want to clarify. It's not that they said the first time they were like, hey, we want you to be on our show. Send us what you can do. They said, hey, we're reaching out to people. You were a name that we were given. Do you want to apply? And so the first time I didn't, then I did. And they were very kind about it. They said that wasn't right for this year, but apply again in the future. And then I think I skipped a year and I didn't apply. And then Jonah and I were talking about it during the pandemic, some of the goals that we had. And one that we both had was get on this show. And we figured together we could do something a little different. How was it for you? What was your process like?
Well, I mean, I've never submitted to the show. I've always thought about it, but I always thought that the content in my act is mostly other people's tricks with my script. No. Huh. Well, maybe, but no, it's mostly other people's tricks with my scripts. And I have a couple bits and a couple of tweaks to things, but some of these tricks are so famous that they've already been done on that show. Like the thing that people know me for around Toronto is the balloon swallow. Well, that's been done on that show a long time ago, like any card, any numbers.
The thing he's known for at 28 years of life is swallowing
just
the balloon.
For example, I'm just saying that around Toronto, people know me for the balloon and any card, any
for
number.
Cards, you do a lot of card work.
Magic is mostly what I do. So I've never submitted because I've been told point blank after interviewing countless people and producers and whatever, don't submit card tricks. We don't need card tricks. Yeah. So the other thing that happened, aside from us deciding to submit, is number one, we thought it would be really silly if one of us submitted and the other one did, or we both submitted and one of us got on and the other one didn't. We thought that would be really stupid and that we would be very frustrated and jealous and angry if that happened. And the other thing that happened was the pandemic. And over the course of the pandemic, Ben and I created a lot of magic together. We did 500 or 600 virtual shows together with magic that we created together. And we did virtual as a duo act for the pandemic, which was the first time for both of us that we had ever done that. And it was ridiculously fun. We had such a good time making magic and coming up with stuff. And we were making YouTube videos during the pandemic and a whole bunch of other stuff because we had time on our hands. We're housemates and business partners and making fun magic. So we made so much magic that we just thought, wouldn't this whole thing be more fun if we did it together? And we started submitting stuff and we had at least high hopes because over the course of the previous 18 months, we had literally invented magic for virtual and for YouTube and stuff pretty well. One
of my superpowers, if I had to say I have a superpower, is being able to gamify my life. And we talked about how, it was frustrating initially when I sent in stuff and then didn't get in. And that's a frustrating process for sure. And I thought, if I'm going to be working on creating magic and then I'm going to try to film it and then I'm going to go through the process of submitting it and then I'm going to have to go on stages, which we'll talk about and develop it and go through revisions and go through this whole process. The reward is getting on the show and that's great. But if you don't end up with that reward, I figured at least I get this wonderful return of like,
fun.
I had fun, we shot video, we did it with
Yeah.
a friend. I wasn't alone in my basement. So
yeah, exactly.
it just, for me, it's more fun.
Not to make it more difficult for somebody out there who's doing it alone, but in general, I've never created anything alone. Like never, ever, ever. And like if I had to submit to that show and be my own director, editor, producer, all that stuff for as long as we did alone, it would have been probably a lot more challenging. Not that it wasn't a challenging
For sure.
process.
I create stuff quite a bit on my own, except, I often run into an area where like if I don't share it with people and get feedback, it's not good. And working directly with you and doing stuff, and you had a line from Teller. What was it?
This is my favorite. So when I interviewed Teller and I asked him about how him and Penn settle their artistic differences, his answer was not lightly. And I love that answer because I think that it even captures how, and I actually interviewed Teller during the time when you and I were doing shows together. So I'd really understood this concept of having to work together as a duo. And that answer of not lightly was so clever and really true. Because Ben and I, when we work through our artistic differences in this act and in other acts, we don't take it lightly. And this act, even more so, had a lot of heated arguments.
And we thought a lot about
cared.
little details, like a word. And we would fight, and I'm sure you'll have questions about the process and stuff, but it was very fun process. For sure, working together also made it a better process, a better end result. Yeah. But there were definitely some tense moments. And it's funny because some of the things that we would fight about that sound super trivial, partly because they're so trivial, we fought more. Yeah. Because I'd say
it's like, this doesn't matter, so let's just go with what I'm saying.
Yeah,
This is such not a big deal.
This is a really funny thing. And then I'd say like, but I don't, the word thing isn't doing, what if we said stuff? And then you're like, no, man, it's thing. And it's like, how could we fight about this? But
okay, so here's my next question.
Yes. So that's the question was, how did we get on, right?
Yes.
So we applied multiple times. We got rejected multiple times. And it's also important, like, it's not like I got a ton of feedback when I applied. It's not like they said, hey, that was great. Here's what I didn't like. If you change this, they didn't do that. They don't have time for that. So they said, hey, apply next year.
Well, so I wanted to paint a picture of the next question is, how did we pick the trick? And I thought I would answer this by saying that, well, we didn't. Yeah, well, we kind of did, but we didn't. So Ben and I thought, we thought we had 2 or 3 tricks. I actually went through the notes recently of what actually happened in the email thread, but we had 2 or 3 tricks from our virtual show. And there's advice that I live by, and it's advice I've heard every great magician say. And the person who just rings in my ears and imagination when I hear it is Joshua J, who's like, do not go on TV and do something that you've never ever done before. Like, go and do that performance every single place you ever possibly could. So I'm like, okay, Ben, let's not invent a trick for this show. That would be ridiculous. We've just invented a whole bunch of tricks for our virtual show. Let's take those, take the clips of us doing it. We've got audiences laughing. We know they love it. We know the jokes are funny. We know they're great. Let's submit 2 or 3 of those. So we submitted 2 or 3 of those, and their response was that they liked us, but that none of the tricks would do.
Not quite. Not quite. We submitted stuff and then we worked with some people a little bit to get revisions.
No, but first we got that response from them.
No, but I think we sent some in, like, they said, like, can you send this video again? But like, I think we sent in live video from our show, and then they said, can you shoot something again for us? And then they were like, let me just get it. I'm pretty sure. And then they said, can we do it again, but like a shorter version? Or like, so they asked for us to make a few changes, and I think they were tweaking. If I recall,
I think that's happening in your mind. They were not tweaking. They were like, we kind of like this one, we kind of like that one.
Wow, this is going to happen in real time. Whose memory is better? By the way, I'll just say, while he's looking this up, if you're familiar with our work and you've watched a lot of our videos, you may notice since the last time you've seen me, I've lost quite a bit of weight. No, hair. I lost quite a bit of hair. I shaved my head. My mom was not happy. And my grandmother, every time she sees me, she goes, are you going to grow it back? Jonah, I'm stalling.
Okay,
you find anything? Looking. You don't even know. You don't have the emails with these people. You didn't talk to them.
Yeah, you did.
This is all fake.
Oh, no, here. I've got it. Well, this is submission part 2. So
that was the one we did with the Torn. That was with when we worked with... Yeah. Can we say their names? Sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, should we say... Wait.
No, we'll get to that part in a minute. But okay. But if I can look through the past... No, we don't have the past email. So you probably have it on your computer. But we sent... Because I remember, because you said, here's submission number 2.
What was the first thing that we sent? Do you remember?
Submitted... Yeah, because I have it in our folders here. We submitted the 2 torn paper things.
Wasn't that the second one? Because we did that with them.
Yeah. We also submitted a blue card. A
trick
with a blue card that was different.
The dream card.
Yeah, the dream card. And then the other one that we did, I actually have in here, if you give me a minute.
Whoa, another one. Hold on, let me think. We did dream card. We did that. There's no way we did this.
What?
No, I know we didn't. With a balloon?
Yeah, so we did the puzzle drawing.
Oh, the second version. Right. This is when we revised it. This is what I'm saying. We did this trick and then we did
this is all in the same folder, right? Yeah, so we did a card trick and we did this trick and we did a paper ribbon.
Right.
Trick.
So we did a drawing tour number store drawing trick. We submitted that to it from our show. They said, it's okay. Tweak it. You gotta tweak it and send it to us again. So then we tweaked it. We worked with Eric Leclerc and Wes Barker, and they liked the routine. But we
also sent this. What on earth is this?
That can't be it. No, that's
this
a full show.
This makes no sense. Oh, okay, yeah. This doesn't make.
That
any
must
sense.
have been a clip for them sending us to you.
Yeah.
No. We submitted the.
It's like I just want to see what this is.
I think that's the drawing.
The drawing again. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So we submitted 2 tricks, a paper trick and a drawing trick. They responded something like, "We like you guys, but maybe try
first
again."
They said, "Give it to us again with that trick," and then they said what you're thinking of.
Yeah. And I would even go double check that because I'm not even sure what that happened. I'm not even sure that happened because here's the email. So I think they probably didn't respond much. Like I think they didn't say much.
They did. I can check on my thing, but either way,
we sent 2 tricks. They said something positive-y, but that did not say yes and did not say no, and was like, maybe submit another one, maybe submit something different. So we brought Wes Barker and Eric Leclerc to consult with us one night on the trick. We tightened up a couple of aspects of the trick and made the script better and made the trick better, and then we submitted it, and then they said, "You are welcome to submit one more trick. We like your energy, and the paper trick is a possibility as well." Which is like, I mean, for us, we were like, what do you mean it's a possibility? Like, what do we do? Like, what should we spend our time working on? So we said, okay, thank you. We'll see what we can, or what did you say?
Because he had responded.
Yeah, so Ben said...
They said they liked our energy, and I said, the secret is a combination of coffee, pre-show jumping jacks, and drugs. Lots of drugs.
And then he said, I'm glad you liked the portrait trick. That was a paper one.
So professional.
Which we can modify as needed, and we would love to submit another trick. And then what happened is, we now submitted the second version of this trick with the portrait, and then we submitted a new trick, which we came up with for this, which hopefully will edit down this whole mayhem section to come back to the most important part. Right, which is that we decided on another completely different trick.
Well, they said the important line that I was, they said, we like your...
you are welcome to submit one more trick. We like your energy. So we're like, let's submit another trick. Yeah. Like, we knew we had to. So then, again... I still would not allow us. Ben and I were coming up with a bunch of different stuff, but I was really strict about not allowing us to do any trick that we had never done before.
And I'm in this creative process, you know, sometimes, and we switch roles. So sometimes he'll take on one role and I'll take on him, but usually there'll be someone who's like a dreamer and then someone who's pragmatic. Yeah. So like one of us will be like, hey, we're going to do this cool TV show. What if we do something big and elaborate? I think we talked about, I was trying to pitch something involving hazmat suits.
Yeah.
He's allergic to peanuts. I wanted us to wear hazmat suits and do something with peanuts, like something ridiculous.
And I knew that we needed something that we had some sort of rhythm or something worked out on, because if we were going to submit this trick and do it on TV in a couple months, like we needed to know something. So we reached into a project that we had been doing on YouTube called the Tarbell Challenge. And in that project, Ben and I were challenging each other to take the books of the Tarbell Course in Magic, which is a famous 7-book series in magic, and each take a trick from the book, come up with a creative modern version, and do it for each other. And do it for each other and see who can come up with a better one. We only ended up shooting 3 of them, but the first of them, I think on the first one.
Which is a shame, by the way, because book 4, you and I disagreed about this.
Keep going,
I thought book 4 was a banger.
We will keep going, but so the first of them, I took a trick from Tarbell, which was with an orange and a ribbon in Tarbell, and I did it with a hot pepper and a ribbon. And the premise didn't make any sense, but it was a really cool trick.
There was something there with it.
Yeah, something about it being hot and spicy, and I don't remember.
Was it a way that you could measure the heat, or you could remove the heat?
No, it was saying that there was different levels of heat, and they would give mice this, and sometimes they would walk through the walls, and it was kind of weird,
right, crazy.
So,
yeah.
But it won that contest, and it was pretty fun. It won that week for us, and I just said, hey, let's take this trick. And originally in Tarbell, it's supposed to be done with an orange. Let's do it with a watermelon because it's big and on stage. So Ben and I
we didn't. Originally, we didn't do it right away with a watermelon.
Yeah, we did. We submitted a watermelon trick at the same time.
Oh, yeah, when we did it with cantaloupe stuff. But the reason we did it with watermelon was you had a story.
Yeah, an amazing story, yeah. So, and this, by the way, did not end up being the premise, right? Which is wild. So when I go grocery shopping with my mom when I was a kid, she used to go to the watermelon section, and she would slap a bunch of the melons, and then she would pick one up and go. And I asked her one day, I'm like, what do you do? Why are you slapping the melons? And she said, I don't know. People just slap the melons and then they take one. So I just slap a bunch of the melons. Maybe they're listening for something, but I have no idea. And then I take one. And I always thought that was the funniest thing ever.
And you told it to me, and I was like, I'm in. I'm sold on that. Because I don't know. I don't think we had decided. I don't think we were excited about a fruit, or I certainly didn't want a watermelon. And he told the story. I was like,
it wasn't going to be an orange. It wasn't. So we had this idea and the premise, and we actually have that video. Maybe we'll put it here.
Yeah, and I like the two things I liked about it, or the three things. One is that it was a unique, weird looking prop.
Yeah.
Right. That's big on stage, and we could do it. Number two was that it's based on a real story from our life. So there's something inherently fun and interesting. If you could tell the story and it's an interesting story or a funny anecdote without a trick, that's probably a good start.
And then
the third was we got to say slap a melon.
Oh yeah,
I want to slap melons on TV.
That line didn't end up making it, but we had a line that said when you slap a melon, it vibrates, and it was really weird.
Yeah,
maybe we'll put it in here.
But I thought the coolest people might
when we saw this image, and this is the submission video. By the way, in our house right here. Okay, so we didn't submit a video of us doing anything live. This image, as soon as we saw that, we knew that they would like it.
By the way, that's our friend James Allen standing in for Allison Hannigan.
So we submitted that video.
Thank you, by the way, James, who helped us and filmed multiple times with us and gave us great notes on the trick, like he does with all our tricks.
That video.
Even when we don't ask him to. Sometimes he just gives us notes.
And I actually think that their response was not even that straightforward still.
I remember us being like, dude, did we get on this show? We had no idea.
And actually,
because they also, you could be cut at any point. So we didn't know, is this good? Is this bad?
Also, what happened was when we submitted that trick, actually, I do remember what happened. When we submitted that trick, they said, we like it. Let's schedule a call. So we got on a Zoom call with them, and we did the trick live on the Zoom call. And then that was when
the trick did it not work? I
feel it didn't work on the Zoom call.
I think we also
added.
We hadn't experimented with the pack. What does he say? The pachydermian hide of the Ricky Jay says. But we tried to poke these needles through, and we couldn't get the needles through, and we couldn't get the ribbons through.
I'm also looking to see. We also tried it we had a big discussion, which maybe we'll talk about in a minute, about making it appear or not. Maybe we'll talk about that in a minute. But really, there was about 3 or 4 different Zooms with them where we were auditioning again and again and again with the same trick. We still hadn't known whether we made it on, but we did a Zoom call with them. They said, we like it. We're going to send some ideas. Right? That happened before.
A few times. And I just want a shout out to the people who were part of that process, Andrew Lincoln and Michael Close, who's a friend of ours, because, it's a very nerve-wracking thing. And we're basically standing, we were in this room, we're on camera, and we would zoom in, and they'd pop in, they'd be like, this is Andrew, this is Lincoln, this is Michael, here's the director, here's this person here, and we're like, oh, okay, and they're like, do the trick, and then they turn to each other, and they're like, what if...
well, it's Zooms, they didn't really turn to each other.
Yeah, but, they would talk to each other, and like, what do you think if they... Instead of they using that premise, what if they did this and this and this? Yeah. And they're like, okay, do it again, but try this joke, do it again. And we're just like...
So we went through it, and by the way, one of the sticking points is that we like the trick, we like the image. They did too.
I just wanted to say, because I forgot to say, it was scary, but those guys made it such an incredible experience, and they were really nice and held our hands along.
One of the sticking points was that script about slapping a melon and it vibrating didn't really make any sense. Mm-hmm. I mean, the premise was that if you slap anything, it vibrates. And so the watermelon's vibrating, so things can pass through it because it's vibrating. You know, Michael Close had made some recommendations about string theory because it was a string that was.
Yeah, we were talking about string and vibration and string theory.
And we were banging our heads
planets. We were like, what if the
wall.
melon represented planets?
We were going to draw a face on it. And we were banging our heads against the wall as to what the premise is. And then I just started Googling watermelons. I thought it'll be there. And then up came the fact, and I just went, oh. And the fact was that a watermelon is 96% water. And then I went, got it.
And it was really the line you said afterwards, what's the line? Do you remember?
But the human body.
Yeah.
Right. So then watermelon is 96% water, but the
No, even before the human body.
The watermelon is 96% water, so it's technically more liquid than solid, so things can pass right through it. And that just makes such cartoon sense.
Yes. And I love when both he and Jonah and I, we love cartoon sense. Like we talked about it from the Jerks and a few other people like Michael Close Michael Weber talks about how like if you have a grain of truth or you start with this true premise, you can get somewhere weird. So like, you hear it and you know it's not true. Of course, it doesn't make any sense that it's mostly water. So we rewrote
the script with that. We kept a couple of our little lines that we could, but we rewrote the script with that. And I mean, we submitted again. They loved it. I vividly remember one night though, where we had the script and it had a whole bunch of sticking points. And then I think I went out or I went to sleep or something. And you like worked all night and like drank 1 million pounds of coffee or something or whatever. And then the next morning you're like, Jonah, I fixed it. I added a bunch of our bits, like bits from our virtual show that we had not integrated that were really funny. Yeah. And he said, Jonah, I figured it out. I fixed it. And I took a bunch of the bits from our show and I just like put them in. Let's go through line by line and just remove any of them that are too much and we'll do it. And that's basically how we ended up with 90-ish% of the script. You kind of did in a closet one night.
Yeah, so we went through a bunch of different revisions, but like you said, we knew, and this is one of the good things about having a partner that you can work with, and I kind of who's smart too. I hope they didn't pick that up, but you pointed out that like it would be smart to put in material from our previous shows and that we know work and get laughs, and like. It was. And when I write new material, I don't think that way. I'm like, it's all new. It's all experimental. And for a TV show like this, like we wanted there to be some moments where, and also
I will say, it's not like we did that trick a lot. We did it for the YouTube video. So I did it a couple of times and a couple of times in rehearsal. Ben and I did a couple
and only ever in our house. You only ever tried it in our house for our friends. Ben and I did a couple of virtual
lectures for some magic clubs where we just shared the behind the scenes of that Tarbell challenge. And I taught how I did that trick. So I performed it and taught it a couple times. So I was a little more familiar with it. But I didn't like really, really have the timing or the things of that trick down. It just was like a little bit familiar.
You were going through still that experimental stage where like when you're playing with a new trick where you were trying like, what if I pre-poke one hole or two holes, the shapes of the holes, what's the material for this, what ribbon looks the best. So there was a lot of pre-thought that went into it that certainly helped when we started translating it. But yes, we learned a lot.
The last thing I wanted to bring up about this process, which was really interesting, was the moment of making the watermelon appear, which we chose not to do. And this was an example of that Teller quote that I really resonate with. It's one that I remember explicitly, that Ben and I beat our heads against the wall over and over again. And his argument, which I agree with, is we're going to be on TV. There's a watermelon. We're going to be using it. We should absolutely make it appear. There's lots of ways to make it appear. It's going to be an amazing clip to make it appear. And I said, I agree. But we need the thing to be clear, because for them to say, yes, you're on the show, it needs to be so clear. And we could not figure out a premise that made sense and also made sense about how the watermelon could appear.
Right.
You know? And when this premise really started to click in, this idea of it's water, things can pass through it, it just went, oh, okay, obviously.
The closest thing we had was using
seed and watering.
Yeah, so taking you had a machine that was, because the premise was we talked at one point about, and we could talk about why we chose not to do this either, but we were going to wear like lab coats and lab stuff. Because we were trying to think of, visuals. So when we're trying to create magic now, a big thing we think about is if someone were to take a photo during the show, does it look interesting and unique and special?
That's why that image was such a...
Yeah, so we thought like if someone took a photo or a screenshot at any point and it was two guys dressed up with crazy stuff, it's always interesting. And we would have a machine that it was like a breakaway box or I can't remember.
It's a bunny appearing box. I forget what it's
definitely
called.
Not that. But whatever it's called. So you would take a seed, you'd put inside, and it would be a machine that we scientists brought, and we'd pour in a little water with a vial, and then poof, a puff of smoke, and there'd be a watermelon. We'd bring it out. And yeah, we talked about maybe it would be better than the trick itself. And that could be problematic. We talked about whether it was clear, whether it was like...
The biggest problem was that it ended up having to be two premises. We're watering a melon, poof, and then this string goes through the melon, which is this long... So we're like, okay, this doesn't make sense. Let's just stick to it. So that's just an example of one where it was like multiple sleepless nights. And
I don't think we would have been wrong to have done it. I think that...
No, had we figured out the way to make sense of it, it wouldn't have been wrong. It's just that like we're fighting for getting on the show, clarity, simplicity, and we just were like... It's easier to not do it and succeed, like not to say that we wouldn't, but you get what I mean.
Right.
The other thing I wanted to talk about that played a role in this is open mics. You and I, from the moment that they said, tell us more, like they didn't even say yes. From the moment that they said, let's start doing Zoom calls and let's start chatting about it, you and I were diligently multiple times a week doing multiple open mic nights doing this show, and we recorded all of them. I mean, we've got video after video. Hopefully we can put them in now, but we've got video after video of us doing this trick on stage with the old script, with the new script.
Yeah, and it was really great. I mean, we knew that we were going to be, if we made it onto the show, we knew that we were going to be on multiple cameras, 7 or 9 cameras or whatever the setup is, and they're going to use the best sort of clips.
Yep.
But we used one camera. We would go on these open mics and we'd record it, and then we did what you're supposed to do, which is we'd go home and we'd look at our video, and we would see like, how are we standing? How do we address the audience? How do we interact with each other? And we had a lot of time talking about, and if you go back and watch our earliest videos, I'm sure you'll be able to see us interacting. When Jonah talks, am I supposed to look at him? Right. Am I supposed to look at the camera? And think about it on stage.
And we struggled so much with that on stage. Like, do you go like, just like look at the audience?
Am I supposed to engage with the audience? If Jonah is talking about a prop and I'm holding, let's say, a prop, do I look at the prop while he's talking? Do I look at,
So we both had to like figure out those beats, and we did it literally meticulously, open mic after open mic.
The beats of the joke, the beats of when you grab a certain prop, and even little things that you don't think about, like several times we would have discussions where you'd say to me, you need one more line here.
Yeah. I don't have enough time.
I can't do what I need to do.
Yeah, exactly. So we had a lot of those where like we actually needed to work out the timing of this thing. And if you were to estimate, and I really don't know because we don't put the open mics in the calendar, if you were to estimate, how many times do you think our shows, Ken's shows, any other performances,
it's really hard
we actually got a chance to do that in person?
Live, I'd say somewhere between a dozen to 20.
Yeah, 20 was going to be my guess. We did it,
which is certainly not a lot. If you're an experienced performer, you can do hundreds of shows in a year. But when you're putting one trick together in a very limited time frame,
and most importantly, 80% of those were the wrong premise. Because I mean, remember, we changed the premise to be the 80% water premise really near the end, and we were realizing we're doing this trick, and we're like, people love the trick. People think that we're funny and cute, but nobody has any idea what we're talking about. We're talking about slapping melons and vibrating, and we're in a club with people that are drunk, and I'm like, this is TV. This is TV. People that have a half a brain cell to pay attention, like this.
And yes, some of the open mics we're doing were like, it would be 25 people or 30 people. Some of them don't speak English.
Didn't know there was a show.
Yeah, didn't know. So like, it's so hard to know, is your material hitting when people aren't there to watch you and they don't care and they're not paying attention, and whoever's running the open mic has not good sound equipment. Like, it's just a crazy thing. And then also important that like, we may have done like say 20 shows, but then like we would go home the next day and we'd watch the footage. Because usually we don't watch the footage the night of, we talk about it, how it went and how we felt. And we do it because we want it to be sort of fun and we want to, our instinctual feeling. Then we watch the footage the next day. Then we revise and write the new script. Then we rehearse the new script. Then we do an open mic. Then we do that again. So like spending a lot of time on this ridiculous, silly little trick.
Yeah. The one other question here, which we mentioned, but I just wanted to say point blank about the before, is where did the trick come from? And that is Tarbell.
Yeah.
Tarbell book 1, I think, or book 2. I'm not
Tarbell book 1. It was the very first one.
Yeah. So it's like hilarious. It's hilarious when people are like, how do I come up with a trick for that show? We took the orange and we made it a watermelon, and like we added obviously a lot, but like it's a trick from Tarbell. And
it's also something that's funny about it is like we created this put this together with a very specific intention, which was to get on the show. We would have kept trying other tricks until they said yes. Our goal was not to, like, sometimes people have material and they're like, my goal is to share my best trick. You know, this one trick I'm known for. And that wasn't our goal. I mean, like, if you go to, in fact, we don't do this trick in our show. Right?
We haven't done it since
even
Vegas.
When we occasionally perform together, and we do perform on a lot of shows together, we don't do this trick. And if you were to ask me, I think, quite honestly, the material in my show is much stronger. Like, the trick, to an audience, but it's not
so
TV
not
friendly.
Fitting to what we like. It's a trick with a watermelon which we have to go and buy. It's a giant metal object. It's ribbons. It's also a trick
that doesn't resonate with me as a performer on stage. It's just something like, it's not something that I want to share with my audiences, and it's not. So, like, you know, we came up with it. We had a goal. We did it, but it came from Tarbell, and there's a lot of killer stuff in there. So I'll throw it out, you know.
And maybe as one,
there's good stuff.
Maybe as one,
there's other tricks from Tarbell I still use.
But maybe one sort of epiphany about it that I think is positive is that, like, always when we have projects where we have to come up with magic, what maybe the micro lesson from this is that you don't come up with it. What you do is you reach into your history of the things that you have already played with, touched, dabbled in, and that's where you get the idea for the project. So many of the times is you're able to say, what's something that I had kind of done a little bit before that I can play with now? And I think that is really what happened here. And if we never do this trick again, okay, but we'll probably use a lot that we learned in this.
Totally. And certainly forward. From the process and, you know.
Okay, so here's a question. Was it hard? Was it difficult to get on? Was it difficult to do?
You and I had very different feelings about this because it's pretty wild to me. For me, it wasn't hard at all. I mean, the hardest part was, to be honest, by far, the hardest part was some of the frustrating fights you and I had.
Oh, for sure.
For me, that was the hardest. Me too. Over little things that were, again, sound trivial, but were so meaningful to both of us. And, you know, you're arguing with this guy and I want to kill him, but I also, like, he's my best friend, like, he's my partner we're doing the show with, you know, like, so, like, and I know he's not looking at me maliciously being like, I'm going to screw this guy. We're doing the show together.
Yeah,
and then he says it and I'm like, how can you not? So everything else was easy. I figured we submitted the trick and either they're going to go, you guys suck.
Yeah.
That's not getting on. And I'd say, cool, okay, whatever. We had fun. Let's go get a shawarma. Or they'd say yes. I really did think for a while, and we kept it secret because I was like, there's a good chance that they're going to like our trick, not fly us to Vegas and decide last minute we got cut.
Or that we would shoot and then cut us. That's what we thought was going to happen really, really possibly. And I would say nothing was, you know, hard. You know, when I was, I'll do a little funny philosophical answer, but when I was in high school, my physics teacher had like the PhD in like nanophysics or something. And I was curious and I asked him, I said, is nanophysics hard? And he said, nothing's hard until you do it. And I thought that was a really interesting take where like everything is hard before you do it. And then when you do it, like it wasn't really hard. And I would say that it was very emotional. Very emotional because not knowing whether or not we'd get it, not knowing whether or not we'd get cut, not knowing whether or not the like visa would go through for us to go there and shoot, not knowing whether or not like so many of that and so much of that and us figuring out the actual details was emotionally taxing. Was it incredibly difficult? No, not terribly difficult. It was very fun.
Another good reason to sometimes do this with a partner. There was definitely times we talked about this where like I felt relaxed because you were anxious. There's something nice. Like, first of all, it's not like we put together a trick and never did it in front of, like, if we had only practiced that alone in our house and never gone on stage, my God, I would have been losing my mind. Losing my mind.
Oh, and I will say, day of shooting, I was a nervous wreck and he was pretty chill. But day of shooting, I was like...
Because and he was nervous and I was thinking in my head, like, we spent all this time going on and man, oh man, did we pour over. Where we'd say, like, hey man, I need you to turn a little bit more to the left.
This.
We talked about whether our arms would be, remember we talked about this versus this versus this. So like we spent so much time thinking about the little things that like, even if we made a mistake, even if he forgot a line, we had that happen. If I forgot a line,
we've had every mistake happen. In the 20 performances we've had,
in some of the times we would do it because we both knew each other's lines. I'd see it in his eyes. He forgot what his next line is. So I would say his line, but then he would jump in and say my line, and suddenly we've switched roles. So the day of, I felt confident because we practiced. We knew all the things that could go wrong. We did our best to prepare for them. And I trusted my partner, so I was feeling comfy. And also, I'm going to say this because I know and I've heard not all shows are like this. From even before day one, the cast, the crew, everyone was so kind, and it was so clear that this was not a gotcha TV moment. Like, if me and him did not have a great set, like, we wouldn't make it on, or we wouldn't make it to air. So, like, the worst case is, like, if we look bad, like, they're not going to air Bad Magic. I hope. You may disagree once you see it and like, well, how did that crap get on?
We haven't seen it yet either. So.
But they were kind. We felt welcome. So if you're applying for it, like, obviously do your best to be as prepared as humanly possible. Go in with your strongest stuff and, like, workshop the hell out of it. Do it in front of live shows. But also know, like, if you make it on, they're there to make you look good.
Okay, next question is, what was Vegas like?
I hated it. One of the worst cities I've ever been to in my life. Should I hold back?
Well, tell us what you think about Vegas.
I didn't like it. For me, just so you understand the vibe, Jonah stayed up late to gamble. I went back to the hotel room and lay in my bed watching TV because I don't like to gamble or party. The city is loud as hell. People yell at you everywhere you walk. You're just walking down the street, and it's not like a billboard that says, like, hey, get coffee. There's just some dude who, like, opens his office door and music's blaring from and they're like, yo, get coffee. And in the morning, because I wanted to relax, I snuck outside and I thought, I'm going to go, well, Jonah sleeps in. He stayed up late playing and having fun. I'm going to go get a coffee. I'm going to sit outside. I see some trees across from our hotel, and I had David Copperfield's History of Magic book, and I was like, this is going to be great. I'm going to have a great time. And I sit down to read my book. It's like 8 a.m, and there's like loud techno club music playing. So I'm like, some idiot is playing his music. And then I go and I move, and it's still playing, And then I realize Vegas has installed speakers in their friggin' trees so that you can't sit.
This guy brought a book to read on the Vegas Strip.
Yeah.
Talking about the Penn and Teller Fool Us experience in Vegas. Flying down there, shooting, being a part of the whole thing. What was the highlight for you?
The highlight for me, really simple, was just the way that everybody treated me. Like we got picked up by someone and they were kind and friendly, and we got met by people. Like, I didn't feel, I might have been stressed if we couldn't find contacts, or if we couldn't get it, or if our room sucked, but no, everything was great. They had snacks. So like, the experience was fun. Like, even if, would I have been disappointed if our thing didn't come to air? Absolutely. Yeah, that would have been heartbreaking. But it's still, the process would have been fun. Like, you know, like.
For me, there was a moment to talk about what Ben said. There's a moment that I want to reflect on, which is when we were on stage doing the rehearsals, and we set up our box and stuff on the stage, and the producers came out and they said, hey, if you want the box to stay here, it totally can. That's totally fine. However, for TV, we recommend that you move it up to here. This is what we think would look better. Again, you can do whatever you want. It's up to you. We just wanted to tell you our recommendation, having seen this through the camera. And we're like, that's the most amazing kind of tip that a producer could give, you know, is to just say, like, do whatever you want, but here's what we're telling you. And like, they really wanted to make it succeed.
Now that you said that, I can't believe I forgot this moment. For sure, the most memorable moment of the thing was when we finished the performance, right? When, I won't say too much about what happened, but the trick worked.
Well, people are going to have seen it already.
Yeah, but either way, like, the trick worked. And, you know, we did it a bunch of times, including
in the rehearsal.
This is crazy.
This is a wild story. So in the rehearsal, we're ready. We're like 3.
Just so you understand. So what happens is there's a bunch of people there to film. Yeah. We're waiting in the back room. People go on stage. They're gone for a certain time. Then they come back. And there's 2 parts. The first part is you go on stage. You get X 15 minutes or whatever it is to do a rehearsal, so the cameras and producers know where they want to, how they cut.
They have a person dressed just like Allison who's standing there.
A stand-in for Allison, a stand-in for the boys in the audience. You know,
and like, so you do a dummy shoot, and so we went out, and all the producers are either outside in the lobby watching, or like Mike Close is in Toronto watching all the camera screens, like it's being sent to him, right? So we do the trick, 3, 2, 1, pull. Instead of us pulling through the watermelon, the ribbon snaps. It breaks. And Ben and I,
which was not the first time it's happened.
Not the first time it happened, but
we thought we had troubleshot it, so
it broke, and I was like, oh my God, this is a nightmare. And then 3, 2, 1, the producers walk over with the cell phone, and they're like, Michael Close is on the phone. And we're just like,
Jonah is dying on stage. And I can see it. You know, you can see when someone's smiling and they're not really happy. You know how you could see it? So Jonah finished his thing, and he's standing there trying to look as confident as he can. And I'm looking in his eyes like the sheer panic.
I was dying.
I am calm as can be, because I'm like, And I'm trying to tell him, I'm like, well, now we know it'll work in the show, right? Because like
what?
It's the 1 out of a million,
Anyways,
you know. And we got
what ended up happening is I made a dumb mistake in setting it up, and I knew what I should have done, and I did it wrong. And we fixed that for the show, but that was a very stressful.
And they didn't come up to us and say, you guys are off the show.
They
came up and they didn't even.
They didn't even mention the break. Mike said maybe you should put your hands like this and not like this, and I was just like. Did you notice that the trick didn't work? Like, I was like, did you guys not notice that it didn't work? And they're like, okay, we got everything. Okay, so go ahead. And we're like,
yeah, I mean, the moment, but you know, that was a crazy moment. And I mentioned it because like you do that. We got our 15 minutes on stage. We got one chance to do this trick so they could see how they're going to film it. We do it. It didn't work. And they go, here's some notes about the way you're going to do it. Back to the green room, because now it's someone else's turn. So we're going back to the green room like, what's going to happen? Mm-hmm. People then now, they finish their green room sets, and then they start performing. And they're doing their shoots. And we're waiting to go. And the moment we went on stage, we had just done this rehearsal where it didn't work. We're nervous and anxious. My partner, I look at him, he's nervous as anxious as shit, you know, or as heck, whatever we could say on this. But like, then we went on stage. Allison came out. We look out. It's really Penn and Teller sitting there. That is nerve-wracking.
It was crazy.
You know,
and
I've been fans
I have to say,
30 years.
It was probably, and maybe I'm wrong, but it was probably more nerve-wracking that it was just for them two and not for an audience, because at least with an audience, we've heard the rhythm of the laughs. Mm-hmm. And in performance, by the way, it was peculiar that you and I had timed all of our laughs, and it was basically just Penn maybe or maybe not laughing.
It felt like virtual at some of the times. When you're doing virtual.
Way worse.
When I was doing Zoom Magic, right, you tell a joke and then people laugh, whatever. And then sometimes you're on a platform where you can't hear any audience members, but you leave that silence. And so you're like...
Yeah. And while I would like to say that we screwed up something live or whatever, I feel like when we got off stage, we felt like $1 million.
Well, what was so nice is other people we found
like,
out, some other people had some things that...
Plenty of
maybe things that were beyond their you know, issues, whatever, and they got a chance to reshoot a few times. And we went out, we did the performance, they walked us off and said, great job. And I felt like
they didn't need any extra scenes.
I felt like a pro because we had done all the work, shot 20 times, analyzed the, you know, or performed 20 times, analyzed it, knew how we were going to stand, knew the moments, knew what we were going to do, and we went out and we crushed it. You know, and I was very proud of it. And whether it's the greatest trick or not is irrelevant. Whether it's our greatest moment or not, irrelevant. I was just proud. I probably got to do it together. And
me too. Okay, so here is the last 2 questions.
By the way, I saw one of the questions. Who helped us with it? I'm just going to throw out
some
names really fast.
Who helped us with it?
Erica, Claire, and Wes Barker. They helped us with a thing that we did, the trick that we didn't end up using, but a lot of the notes and stuff they gave us.
Mentality and the ideas
stuff
what to do. Yeah.
Helped us on the TV. Ken Pham, who put us on his variety shows. Dave Curran, who put us on his incredible Joker's Theater. And
did we do that trick at Joker's? No. But we still performed at Joker's.
We performed a lot and tried and developed some stuff, but and also with Dave's other stuff, and then what else? We did Yuck Yucks. We did it at Yuck Yucks. So thank you.
Why don't we, instead of doing a giant thank you to thank Australian people, why don't we actually say like, how did we get this trick done? Who helped us?
Okay, so then so the people I want to throw, Ken Pham, who put us on the variety shows the open mics that we performed a bunch. James Allen, who was a stand-in for us and helped us record and edit. Mike Close, who helped a ton with the editing and revising. Lincoln and Andrew, who helped with the direction.
Yeah, in my eyes, there's thousands of people to thank on the road here. The people that really helped us do it is the team at Fool Us. I mean, there was like you and I, like everyone else did great and helped us with inspiration and with, you know, places to perform and things like that. But Ben and I went back and forth with the script over and over and over and over and over again. And we shared it with some people and people had lovely little notes. But I guess I'm saying this as a piece of advice that like, it's you. Like, it's you who's going to have to do the work. Oh, and like, you know, they helped us. The producers helped us so much. Mike Close helped us so much. But at the end of the day, every single person, and Ben and I have talked about this because we've hired now multiple magic consultants for many projects, but every single magic consultant is basically just sharing their ideas and basically going, what if you did this? What if you did that? What if you did this? And then you always have to go, okay, got it, and take that and go a mile deep onto what it is. So a lot of people helped us go wide. I think you and I went deep, and I think with the producers of the show, they really helped us, you know, go deep and get everything
that's what I meant.
Sharp. No, I mean, you can thank however many people you want. I just don't want to spend.
And also my mom
20
and
minutes
dad
thanking people. Yeah, okay.
for making me.
Okay, a couple other questions.
Yes.
Number one, how do you feel now?
Great.
This is pre-airing, post-shooting, post-talking about it, but pre-seeing it.
Honestly, the thing I'm most nervous about is I was eating really healthy before the trip and working out, and then a month before, I guess out of nerves and everything, I stopped really working out and I started eating like crap. So I'm just worried I'm going to look like a monster on the show. I'm not too worried they're going to make us look bad. I've seen every episode.
Yeah.
They make everyone, no matter how silly, look good.
Yeah,
So.
there's 3 to 5 things like that I'm worried about. Like, I'm worried about certain things flashing. I'm worried about the way I'm standing. I often sway on stage, like even still. So like, I'm worried about having had done that because I don't remember. And a couple other pieces like that I'm a little bit worried about. But overall, I feel amazing, super fun. We didn't talk at all about what was also an incredibly fun part of the project, which was that pre-part that they shoot. Like, who are Ben and Jonah? What do they do? And that was so much fun, not only going down there and shooting, but also gathering weird footage of all the random stuff that we've done.
Look through the last 6 years of some of our projects to do it.
And that was one where we spoke about so many different, like, you know, Ben and I's history is like 10, 15 years old. And there's a lot of amazing stories that they could have captured, right? Like, we run a company together. We live together. We went to a summer camp together.
Went to a magic summer camp together. We've done road trips.
Yeah.
And
so there's a lot of angles
together,
that they could have taken. And I honestly, literally have no idea what angles exactly they took. Like, we spent a couple hours there speaking and shooting. And
again, to understand the process for people who are listening to this, I know we're getting long, but we haven't seen it.
Yeah, we have no
It
idea.
airs tomorrow,
and
there's a chance that we won't be able to watch it live, and we're going to have to get footage. So we don't know. We don't know what we look like. We don't know what the trick looks like. We don't know what the intro looks like. We don't even know if we fooled them.
Yeah, we don't know.
No, we do know.
We don't know.
We know, but we don't know anything else.
Okay, 2 or 1 more.
Let's hear it.
Question, and I have real answers.
And then we can let the cat and he's screaming.
Yeah, I have real answers for this, but and I assume you do too. But what kind of advice do you have for someone who's going to get on season 10 or who wants to get on the next season, season 10? And look, this show's not going to go on forever. There's only going to be a couple more seasons, maybe. We don't even know there's going to be season 10, but maybe 10, maybe 11, maybe 12, but it's going to end soon. So if you were always thinking about it and you said, I'm going to wait until it, don't wait. We submitted a trick we had never done before. Okay. So don't wait.
And part of the reason we submitted this time rather than waiting another year,
there was a chance it might be the last.
Yeah. And it's such an important for us. It's such an important piece of TV magic culture that I wanted to be part of it.
Okay. What advice do you have for somebody who wants to get on?
Easiest one is you got to submit. You got to submit. I know so many people who didn't submit, myself included, because they made excuses like, I don't have something I'm ready to do. I'm worried that I won't look good on TV. I'm worried they're going to say no, etc. Submit, because if there's something there that they can help you develop and you can get on TV, then do it. And if you don't, you end up working on a trick that maybe is part of your show for later. Like there's no downside to submitting. And if they say no, be persistent, keep doing it. And then afterwards, do as many live shows as you can so you're ready for the TV spot.
I have 4 pieces of advice because I've been
he
talking
prepared
about this for a while. Yeah. Number 1, submit. 100%. That's really the best. Like, I've never submitted to the show and I've always wondered why I wasn't on it. Okay.
Hard to win a lottery if you don't buy a ticket.
And I'm sure you're the same. Like, a lot of magicians who are watching this have always wanted to be on the show and have never, ever tried. So, number 1, submit. Number 2, you don't need a video of you doing the performance for real people. Do it in your house.
Yeah.
Do it in your house. It's actually better in your house because they're just trying to scrub it and look to make sure it looks right, which leads me to number 3. Make sure it passes the scrub test. What's the scrub test? Scrub to the video. And if something interesting looks like it's going on, then they'll actually watch it. If it looks like you're sitting at a table doing a card trick or you have a coin in your hand, they don't care. It's over. Okay. So does it pass the scrub test? And then secret tip number 3 is you are shooting it in your house. You are recording it in your house. Go get some simple light background music and overlay it on the video because it's going to cut the awkwardness of you standing alone in your house and make it a little tiny bit easier to watch. I have to say that us taking our clips and sending them to our editor to add a little tiny bit of background music behind it makes it so that those awkward moments and pauses and looks and stuff aren't so sharp. So, sorry. And my last tip, because I'm scrambling them, but my last tip, my 5th one is submit more than 1. keep going. Submit more than one. It's not about you. People always say to me, they're like, I haven't decided what exactly the best trick is. If we thought that way, we would not have made it.
Yeah.
We thought a bunch of tricks. We submitted a bunch. They were like, nah. We submitted another 2. And they were like,
don't stop submitting until they tell you stop submitting.
Exactly. Nobody told us to stop submitting. They just said, we don't like it.
In fact, they literally encouraged us and said, maybe keep going.
Totally. Okay. That is it. Any last words about this project? Any other behind the scenes thing you want to share? Anything else you want to talk about this whole entire thing?
Yeah, it was an incredible experience. I can tell you, just to reiterating what we just said, and to sum up all this is submit, because I will be resubmitting again, even though we've been on the show.
It was fun.
It was fun, and we'll keep doing it, and we may never get on again. But I'm going to keep trying it. And also it got us excited to do more potential television spots. So if you're at home watching, we didn't have to rent a theater. I didn't have to get footage. I didn't have to have done this trick for 10 decades. We picked a trick we'd never really performed for real people.
From a book that's 100 years old.
We shot it with one camera.
How old was Tarbell?
Tarbell was 1940 something, or even earlier. Even earlier. No, that's even earlier. But yeah, 80, 90 years old. We shot on one camera. We shot in our house. Jonah said you can add in music and stuff, but the first few we sent in didn't. Yep. So like, there ain't a lot of reasons. What I'm saying is, if you're sitting at home and you have a couple cool tricks, submit them, man or woman or whoever the heck you are. Like, give it a try, and hopefully next time we watch an episode, one of you will be on it.
And of course, a big thank you, obviously, to all the people that Ben mentioned earlier, that got us here. There's tons of people. I mean, even like Magic Mike, who at Magic Camp,
introduced us basically.
Yeah, how we basically met each other. Like you said, Ken Pham and Dave Curran for giving us spots to perform.
Jeff Pinsky in the Browser's Den.
He
sold us all the props we basically used for this.
Literally, we went in and I'm like, hey, can I buy 7 of these?
Even more. Both he and I own sets of Tarbell, which we got from Jeff Pinsky as gifts from the Len Cooper Award.
Absolutely. So literally we got Tarbell.
Yeah, wouldn't be without him.
Eric LeClaire and Wes Barker, who not only came over to help with the actual content, but one thing that they really helped us with is their confidence that we would do it.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, this is fine. Oh yeah, you guys will be fine. And it just really helped us feel like good about sending this stuff in and not feel really nervous and really...
2 guys we admire came over and said, we'll do a good job. It's like, that's a good boost.
Michael Close, who is an absolute legend. It's just outrageous
helped us with method, helped us with routining, scripting, presentation, jokes, blocking, like
everything. And the other 2, Lincoln and Andrew, who literally through the entire process helped us with everything, every last joke and bit and word. And it was amazing because Ben and I would argue for like 6 days about something, and then we'd have our decision, and then we'd come and present it, and they would go, what about doing this? And we're like, oh yeah, that was literally the other option that we thought of, but we didn't do it. So we were on the same wavelength, and they just helped us solve problem after problem in the script.
There's one more person here.
Also, so a couple of people to thank. Go ahead.
We want to thank
just that last one.
Oh, and Larry. And of course Larry, who not only helped shoot and helped us structure before the episode or whatever it's called, the intro reel that's going to play, and did the hero shots and stuff, but also was so great to engage with online because he was one of the only people who laughed at my jokes. So really, when I'd sign off every email, I was like, I hope I can make Larry laugh today.
And you know what? It was really fun, and he was another example of someone who we showed up and he said, how can we make you guys look your best? What do you want to showcase? What do you want to talk about? And what kind of footage you want to send? They really, really helped us. And of course, Penn and Teller.
Yes,
which
huge shout outs.
My only one little sad thing was because we were still shooting in COVID, our extent of meeting them was being like, hey guys, we're about to shoot in a couple seconds.
I was hoping to kiss them both.
No. But I was hoping to say hello. But if you want to learn about all the questions that I would have asked Teller, I already did in an episode of the podcast that's recorded, and looking to interview Penn. If you're listening, call me. Okay, that's it. Any last words?
Yes. If you take coffee and you freeze it into ice cubes, it won't water down your iced coffee when you make it. You just ruined that song for me.